Rocky IV, 1985, was not only a cinematic icon with its breathtaking boxing matches, but also a story about people who left an indelible mark. Yet behind the glamour of the silver screen, many stars from the film faced terrifying addictions, unexpected accidents, and life-threatening illnesses. What happened after the movie ended? Let's uncover the truth and pay tribute to the legacies they left behind. Let's get started. Burt Young as Paulie Pennino. Burt Young, whose real name was Gerald Tommaso DeLuise, was born on April 30th, 1940, in Queens, New York. When he joined Rocky IV in 1985 as Paulie Pennino, Rocky Balboa's hot-headed but loyal brother-in-law, he was 45 years old. This role brought him closer to global audiences, especially after he received an Oscar nomination for the original Rocky, 1976, a rare honor for a supporting actor so beloved for his painfully honest performance. Few people know that before making a name for himself on the screen, Young was a U.S. Marine and a professional boxer, winning 32 out of 34 matches. The years of discipline both in the military and the boxing ring shaped his rugged appearance and weary yet unyielding eyes, an essential part of the Paulie persona he portrayed. But behind the glory of Rocky, his real life was just as dark as the characters. In 1974, his wife, Gloria, died suddenly, leaving him with their young daughter. That private grief caused Young to withdraw, living a quiet life and rarely mentioning his family in interviews. During the 1980s, he also went through a financial crisis due to a string of minor roles, box office failures, and even considered giving up acting altogether. Still, he persevered, appearing consistently in films like Once Upon a Time in America, 1984, Back to School, 1986, and later Win-Win, 2011, often playing rough-edged characters, almost a reflection of his true self. Burt Young's life off the set was far from calm. He once owned a restaurant in the Bronx, participated in the New York Marathon in 1984, and in his later years he found joy in painting and writing. Some of his artworks were even exhibited in international galleries. His paintings appeared in scenes of Rocky Balboa, 2006, serving as a subtle symbol of the overlap between art and real life. However, old age did not spare him. In his final years, Burt Young reportedly battled heart disease, atrial fibrillation, and atherosclerosis, which severely weakened his health. On October 8, 2023, he passed away in Los Angeles at the age of 83. The official cause of death was cardiac arrest, with contributing factors including a heart attack. He was laid to rest at Mount St. Mary Cemetery in Flushing, Queens, a peaceful resting place in the heart of New York, not far from where he was born and raised. His net worth was estimated at around $2 million, a modest figure for a film legend whose career spanned nearly 50 years. Leroy Neiman as himself. Leroy Neiman, born Leroy Leslie Runquist on June 8, 1921, in St. Paul, Minnesota. In 1985, when he was 64 years old, he made a surprising cameo appearance as himself in Rocky IV, contributing to the realism of the boxing scenes, a moment that stunned audiences but aligned perfectly with his passion for sports and his public persona. Neiman's childhood was far from smooth. His biological father left the family, his mother remarried multiple times, and he was forced to adopt his stepfather's surname at a young age. After World War II, he studied art and began his career at Playboy magazine, where he illustrated for 50 years and created the famous character Femlin. Beyond that, he traveled the world, painting the Olympics, the Super Bowl, boxing matches, Las Vegas casinos, jazz nights, and even portraits of wild animals. With his ability to capture dynamic moments through bold brushstrokes, Neiman quickly became known as the world's first great sports artist. In 1957, he married Janet Byrne, his life partner of 55 years until his death. They lived in a historic apartment at the Hotel des Artistes in Manhattan, once home to legends like Norman Rockwell and Rudolph Valentino. The love and stability Janet provided were seen as a vital emotional support that helped Neiman weather personal storms and remain focused on his art. Despite his fame and success, with a net worth estimated at around $20 million, Leroy Neiman was not free from controversy. Art critics frequently derided his work as overly commercial, accusing him of pandering to the public rather than embodying the essence of a true artist. He was also involved in several lawsuits related to copyright and property disputes. His luxurious lifestyle, with a private studio, a New York penthouse, and global travels, created significant financial pressure in his later years. In 2010, he had his right leg amputated due to arterial insufficiency, yet he continued painting. Leroy Neiman died on June 20, 2012, in New York, just 12 days after his 91st birthday of natural causes. He was buried at Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx, a final resting place shared by many of history's most notable figures. Carl Weathers as Apollo Creed. Carl Weathers was born on January 14, 1948, in New Orleans. When he portrayed the boxer Apollo Creed in Rocky IV, 1985, he was 37 years old, an ideal age to play a proud champion with real emotional depth. Apollo was not just Rocky Balboa's longtime rival, but a cultural icon, powerful, intelligent, and the embodiment of American charisma. The role transformed Carl Weathers from an unknown former NFL player into one of the top action stars of the 1980s. However, his life wasn't all lights and applause. Weathers went through multiple failed marriages, 3 in total, all ending in divorce. Though he rarely spoke publicly about it, close friends revealed that he struggled with loneliness behind the scenes. After playing Apollo, he tried to break free from the character's shadow, appearing in action films like Predator, 1987, and Action Jackson, 1988, though none replicated Rocky's monumental success. In 1996, while filming as Chubbs in Happy Gilmore, Weathers suffered a broken vertebra in a stunt scene. This injury caused him chronic pain for years, a quiet physical tragedy for someone who had once been an elite athlete. Nevertheless, he kept working, doing voiceovers, acting in television series, and making a major impression once again with his role as Greef Karga in The Mandalorian, 2019 to 2023, which earned him an Emmy nomination in his 70s. Off-screen, Weathers once said he loved the stage more than football, which led him to pursue a master's degree in drama while still playing for the Oakland Raiders. He lived a private life and spent his final years with his longtime partner, Christine Klugian. But on February 1, 2024, Carl Weathers passed away in his sleep at the age of 76. Although his family described it as a peaceful passing, the public was saddened by the absence of an official cause of death, with speculation pointing toward complications from atherosclerotic heart disease. His body was cremated, and several months later, on August 29, 2024, he was formally honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, ensuring that the name Apollo Creed would forever rest among the stars. His estimated net worth was around $8 million, earned from decades of acting, directing, voice work, and endorsements. Tony Burton as Tony Duke Evers. Tony Burton was born on March 23, 1937, in Flint, Michigan. He portrayed Tony Duke Evers, the devoted trainer of Apollo Creed, and later Rocky Balboa in the Rocky film series. When he appeared in Rocky IV in 1985, he was 48 years old, and one of the rare 4 actors to appear across all 6 of the original Rocky films. Though always in a supporting role, Duke was the fighting spirit in the shadows, the one who cheered, motivated, and agonized before every life-or-death match. Yet Tony Burton's real life was no less intense than the boxing ring. He was once a Golden Gloves light heavyweight boxing champion in Michigan and also a talented football player during high school. But glory was short-lived. In 1958, after an unremarkable professional boxing career, he fell into crime and was sentenced to over 3 years in prison for theft. It was in prison that Burton found a new purpose: Through acting-based therapy programs, he discovered his talent for performance and completed his education at the University of California during rehabilitation. After his release, he started from scratch, performing in small theaters in Los Angeles, and gradually building a name for himself with gritty supporting roles. He appeared in Assault on Precinct 13, 1976, Stir Crazy and The Shining, 1980, where he impressed not only with his acting, but also by beating director Stanley Kubrick at chess behind the scenes. Despite his talent and many appearances on television shows like The Rockford Files, Twin Peaks, and The A-Team, Burton never fully escaped the shadow of Duke. But he didn't mind. For him, surviving, acting, and being loved by the audience was reward enough. However, his later years were filled with pain. His son Martin died of a heart attack in 2014 at the age of 43. Burton himself battled diabetes and related complications for many years. In his final year, he was frequently hospitalized, his health declining without access to the best treatment. On February 26, 2016, he passed away from complications of pneumonia at the age of 78. He was survived by his wife, Ray, and their 3 children, along with the grief of the Rocky fan community. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at just $1.5 million. Sylvia Meals as Mary Ann Creed. Sylvia Meals was born on June 13, 1943, in Los Angeles, California. She took on the most memorable role of her life, Mary Ann Creed, wife of Apollo Creed, in Rocky II, and returned with deep emotion at age 41 in Rocky IV, 1985. In the film, she portrayed a strong, resilient woman torn by grief as her husband collapsed in the ring before millions of viewers. It wasn't just a role, it was a haunting farewell that left a lasting impression. However, Sylvia Meals' career was curiously brief in an industry already unforgiving to women of color. Before joining the Rocky franchise, she had appeared in a little-known television film titled Harambe, a project nearly forgotten in Hollywood history. Still, it was her role as Mary Ann Creed that allowed her a moment in the spotlight. Though her screen time was limited, every appearance she made was impactful. Her resolute gaze as she watched her husband enter the ring, her firm voice pleading with Rocky to stop the fight in Rocky IV, were proof of her powerful emotional range. Yet after Rocky IV, Sylvia's acting career virtually came to a halt. She didn't appear in any notable films or television shows again. Some sources suggest she chose to focus on her family life after divorcing her former husband, Robert L. Meals, in 1979. Others believe, as was the case for many black actresses of her generation, that she was limited by a lack of roles and opportunities in an industry still steeped in racial and gender bias. It is deeply unfortunate that Sylvia's talent wasn't fully recognized. With only 4 credited roles in her entire career, she nearly vanished from the public's memory. While the male actors of the Rocky series continued to land major roles and became cultural icons, Sylvia quietly faded into the background, not even invited back for later installments like Creed, 2015, where the character of Mary Ann was recast and played by a different actress. Sylvia's life came to a quiet end on March 29, 2011, in the very city where she was born, Los Angeles. She passed away at the age of 67 after a battle with cancer, in a sorrowful silence. There was no glamorous funeral, no media-covered memorial. Her death was noticed only by a small group of Rocky fans, much like her role in the films. Quiet, profound, and tragically overlooked. James Brown as himself. James Brown, whose real name was James Joseph Brown, was born on May 3, 1933, in Barnwell, South Carolina. In Rocky IV, 1985, when he was 52 years old, he didn't play a fictional character but appeared as himself, James Brown as himself, performing the electrifying hit Living in America during Apollo Creed's grand entrance before his fateful fight with Ivan Drago. It became one of the most iconic musical cinematic moments of the 1980s, where soul music blended with boxing to create a culturally defining event. But behind the spotlight was a life filled with turmoil, tragedy, and controversy. James Brown grew up in extreme poverty, working as a shoe shiner, stealing to survive, and serving time in juvenile detention. He rose to become a musical legend thanks to his extraordinary talent and unbreakable will. But that same fiery intensity also fueled his personal downfalls. He endured 3 failed marriages, was involved in multiple cases of domestic violence, fathered numerous children out of wedlock, and was often entangled in custody battles, child support disputes, and even allegations of abuse and sexual assault. Brown also struggled with drug addiction, especially PCP and cocaine, which increasingly destabilized his behavior. At one point, he drove across state lines in a paranoid frenzy, was chased by police, and ultimately sentenced to 6 years in prison, though he served just over 2. His status as a music icon never faded, but in his personal life, he frequently made headlines for violence, firearms, and erratic conduct. In his final year, James Brown developed acute pneumonia, which led to heart failure. He passed away on December 25, 2006, Christmas Day, at the age of 73. His death shocked fans, as he had performed only days earlier. His funeral stretched over several days and was held at 3 separate locations, including the famed Apollo Theater in Harlem, a fitting tribute to a monumental career. However, he was not buried immediately. His body was kept in a temperature-controlled room for nearly 2 months due to legal disputes over his estate and status between his children and his last partner, Tommy Ray Heine, whose legitimacy as his legal wife remains contested. Although James Brown had amassed an estimated $100 million fortune from his music career, much of it was depleted by lawsuits, legal fees, and mismanagement. After his death, his will became the subject of a fierce 15-year legal battle, making the distribution of his wealth and legacy one of the most complex and scandal-ridden disputes in American music history. Stu Nahan as sports commentator. Stu Nahan was born on June 23, 1926 in Los Angeles, and made his debut in the Rocky franchise as a sports commentator, a role he continued throughout all 6 of the original films, including Rocky IV, 1985, when he was 59 years old. In Rocky IV, it was Nahan's booming, seasoned voice that brought the electric atmosphere of the ring to life as Rocky faced Ivan Drago, making the fight feel like a real high-stakes boxing match. What many don't know is that before becoming the voice of these cinematic showdowns, Stu Nahan was a star goalie at McGill University in Canada and signed a contract with the legendary Toronto Maple Leafs hockey team in 1946. From professional athlete, he pivoted to television, taking on beloved roles in children's programs like Skipper Stu and Captain Philadelphia, figures etched into the childhood memories of countless viewers. His broadcast and television career spanned more than 3 decades and included stints with major stations like KABC, KNBC, and KTLA, as well as radio networks like KFWB. He not only hosted sports shows, but also served as a commentator for the Philadelphia Flyers and NFL games. This long-standing career earned him deep respect and an estimated net worth of around $2 million. Well earned through decades of dedication. Yet beyond the limelight, Stu Nahan faced the toughest battle of his life. In 2006, he was diagnosed with lymphoma, a malignant blood cancer. Despite undergoing treatment, his body gradually weakened from chemotherapy. He passed away on December 26, 2007, at the age of 81 in Studio City, California. There were no scandals, no controversies. He left this world the same way he lived in it, calm, professional, and beloved. Michael Pataki as Nikolai Koloff. Michael Pataki, born on January 16, 1938 in Youngstown, Ohio. In Rocky IV, 1985, when he was 47 years old, he played Nikolai Koloff, the cold, stern, and powerful handler of the towering boxer Ivan Drago. Though a supporting role, Pataki left a lasting impression as a steely, authoritarian figure symbolizing the icy grip of Cold War politics within the boxing ring. Born into a Hungarian immigrant family, Pataki studied political science and theater at the University of Southern California before launching his career with a performance of The Zoo Story at the Edinburgh Festival. He quickly became a familiar face on television, appearing in a long list of popular series including Star Trek, The Flying Nun, Batman, Mission, Impossible, McCloud, and most memorably as the Klingon Korax, the character who sparked the infamous bar fight in the Trouble with Tribbles episode. Yet behind his commanding on-screen presence was a life lived quietly and, at times, on uncertain ground. Pataki never publicly disclosed any details about a wife, children, or personal relationships. He maintained a low profile to such an extent that many were unaware he had directed and produced films such as Cinderella, 1977, and Mansion of the Doomed, 1976. Despite acting in dozens of films, from Airport 77 and Love at First Bite to Halloween 4, most of his roles were secondary or in B-movies, preventing his career from reaching the same heights as some of his contemporaries. In his final years, Pataki battled cancer privately. He passed away on April 15, 2010, at the age of 72. His death didn't make major headlines, but it left a void in the hearts of fans who cherished classic horror films and the Rocky saga. Before his passing, he completed voice work for the animated character George Liquor in Cans Without Labels, which was released posthumously as a tribute to his legacy. At the time of his death, Michael Pataki's estimated net worth was around $1 million, a modest sum reflecting a rich yet tumultuous career. His life was a testament to a rare kind of artist, dedicated, quiet, yet full of strength. The man behind the spotlight who helped shape icons like Ivan Drago in the annals of film history, James Cannonball Green as Manuel Vega. James Cannonball Green was born on July 28, 1917 in Cape Town, South Africa, and was both an actor and a former professional boxer. In 1985, at the age of 68, he portrayed Manuel Vega, Ivan Drago's stern and silent boxing trainer in Rocky IV. Though his appearance was brief, the role made a memorable impact on fans, embodying the severity and cold precision of Soviet training methods. Before his unexpected turn in Hollywood, James Green was a professional middleweight boxer, an origin few would suspect from a minor film actor. From 1932 to 1942, he fought in 25 matches, an impressive number during a fiercely competitive era in global boxing. Nicknamed Cannonball for his explosive and relentless fighting style, he was known for his endurance and striking power in the ring. After retiring from competition, he didn't leave the sport, but transitioned into coaching, training younger generations of fighters. That real-world experience infused his portrayal of Manuel Vega with a sense of authenticity, as he led Drago through brutal, frigid training sessions reflective of the Soviet military-industrial sports complex. Despite having no formal acting training or extensive filmography, Green's sharp glare and commanding presence contributed significantly to shaping the image of Rocky's emotionless opponent. He wasn't a professional actor in the traditional sense. He didn't attend drama school or appear in numerous productions, but rather a natural actor whose life in the ring brought a raw edge to the screen. Aside from Rocky IV, Green had a small role in the 1973 film The All-American Boy, but his film career consisted of only a handful of appearances. This made him one of those familiar yet unfamiliar faces, remembered not for a prolific body of work, but for one powerful, iconic role. Sadly, on June 24, 1998, James Cannonball Green passed away at the age of 80. With only a few acting credits and beginning his screen work later in life, his estimated net worth was around $200,000, mostly from modest film payments and his lifelong work as a boxing trainer. Tony Maffetone as KGB agent. Tony Maffetone, born on December 24, 1943, was a former New Jersey police officer who made an unexpected leap into the world of Hollywood, leaving behind a small yet unforgettable mark in the blockbuster Rocky IV, 1985. When he joined the film at age 42, he played a silent but haunting KGB agent, contributing to the film's signature Cold War atmosphere, cold, tense, and unrelenting. Before stepping onto a movie set, Tony wore a police uniform, patrolling the streets of New Jersey. After retirement, instead of settling into a quiet life, he chose to protect the rich and famous. His name became associated with high-profile clients like Dolly Parton, Sylvester Stallone, and even heirs of the Johnson & Johnson empire. While working as Stallone's personal bodyguard, Tony gradually became a trusted weapons and combat consultant, contributing to action sequences in Rambo 2 and several other projects. Without a professional acting background, Maffetone entered Hollywood through stunt work, consulting, and minor roles. He appeared in Nighthawks, 1981, Cobra, 1986, Over the Top, 1987, and Rambo 3, 1988, often cast as mercenaries, police officers, or agents, roles that suited his 6'2" frame and steely appearance. He also founded Ronin Agency, a security firm serving celebrities and politicians alike. On August 2, 2000, at just 56 years old, Tony Maffetone died suddenly in a scuba diving accident at the wreck of the USS San Diego, one of the more tragic diving incidents of that era. He became trapped and was unable to surface, leaving behind a wave of grief and disbelief within the action film community, so accustomed to peril on screen. His estimated net worth at the time of his death was around $300,000, earned primarily through bodyguard work, consulting, and high-risk stunt performance. Robert Dornick as Seiko the Robot, voice. Robert Dornick, born around 1935, was the voice and operator behind the strange yet memorable robot Seiko in Rocky IV, 1985, when he was about 50 years old. In the film, Seiko was a birthday gift from Rocky to Paulie, a seemingly comic addition, but one loaded with deeper meaning, ultimately becoming one of the most bizarre and iconic symbols of 1980s cinema. Although he never appeared on screen in person, Dornick was the soul of Seiko, the man who brought a machine to life and even, somehow, made it capable of love. What few people realize is that Seiko was not just a movie prop, but a real robot, with a functioning voice, mobility, and even official membership in the Screen Actors Guild. Dornick was not a professional actor, but a trailblazer in robotics and artificial intelligence. He founded International Robotics, Inc. in New York. Stallone approached Dornick after learning that one of his robots had been used in therapy for Stallone's autistic son, Sergio. As a result, Seiko was written into the script as a quiet, heartfelt gesture from father to son. However, that brief brush with fame didn't last. When Stallone released the director's cut of Rocky IV, all of Seiko's scenes were cut. The reason wasn't just a tonal shift for the film, it was also reportedly to avoid paying royalties for Dornick's voice and Seiko's design, a move that disappointed many of the robot's longtime fans. Robert Dornick passed away in 2010 at the age of approximately 75. His net worth was estimated at only $150,000, mostly from tech contracts and licensing deals. Notably, Seiko once toured with James Brown as part of a unique live performance series, an unlikely but unforgettable pairing. The journeys of the stars of Rocky IV have come to an end, but the legacy they've left behind lives on in the hearts of fans. Which character moved you the most? Which tragic story struck the deepest chord? Share your thoughts with us as we continue to uncover the untold backstage secrets behind these cinematic legends.